Welcome to Journey Through the Eyes, the EMDR podcast. We're the podcast that's here to unveil and explore the transformative power of EMDR therapy. Here, our mission is to support both the new and seasoned clinicians and those amazing and critical conversations and share resources about EMDR or other therapy approaches and how to build your amazing private practice. I am one of your hosts. I'm Tamara J. Brown. I'm the CEO and founder of Arise Psychotherapy and Coaching Services, where we offer services of like amazing EMDR for women. And I'm going to introduce to you to now my beautiful co-host, Miss Kathy Couch.
Hey, I am Kathy Couch here. I am the owner of Rewired 360, a training organization and consulting organization that teaches therapists how to provide EMDR therapy and become business and training consultants. And I also have a private practice, Willow Creek Counseling, out of Twin Falls, Idaho. And we're super happy today to have Jennifer Michelle out of Idaho as well. Idaho's representing. We're going to put it on the map.
Yes.
She's in our capital. She's in Boise, Idaho, and she is a keynote speaker and a LCPC, and an entrepreneur. We love entrepreneurs on the podcast. We love people that have ideas. I think, this creativeness that we all have as therapists, if we can turn it into business, that's great. She opened her business, Family Counseling Services, a community mental health agency in Meridian, Idaho, which is about 2 hours from where I'm at in Twin Falls, in 2008. And then in 2023, just last year, super exciting, she opened Jennifer Michelle Coaching, a business consultation firm. So she went on to publish her book, The Lightbulb Effect, just had her grand opening on that. And I'm waiting for the paper copy to be published here soon. So if you can talk about that when we can expect that to be released. You can follow her journey at The Lightbulb Effect at her website, www.thelightbulbeffect.com. Those will all be in our speaker notes here. So we're just going to kind of turn the floor over to you, Jennifer, and maybe just kind of talk about your journey. I think today we're going to kind of talk about the book, and we'd also like to discuss some EMDR questions as well about your journey there. So can you kind of start by sharing with us this transformation that you've been experiencing?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be with you both. So the journey of the light bulb effect started after I moved into a new house in 2016 after a life transition. And I was decorating for Halloween. So I was putting up some green light bulbs, and one of them broke as I was putting it in. And I got really frustrated thinking this is just another thing on my plate that I have to deal with. And so I literally grabbed a paper towel and I picked up the pieces of the light bulb and I set them on my work desk at home. I honestly didn't even have the energy to put them in the trash. And so they sat on my desk for probably several months. And then what happened next was really interesting because I started, as I walked by these broken pieces of light bulb, metaphors started coming to my head. So then I started journaling about the metaphors that were coming to mind. And then those ended up being chapters in my book, which right? So I started writing it several years after 2016 when I went through some mentoring. And the whole book is a self-help book, and it's based around the metaphor of how in life we start out whole, and through our journey, we get scratches and scars, and we sometimes break, but there's so much beauty in the pieces. And I think the secret of the light bulb effect is that, this is a quote from the book, is that it's in the cracks of our brokenness where strength receives the opportunity to grow. And so that's kind of the background of the book.
Wow, that's amazing. And so you had just sort of had this idea and been downloading it and marinating on it.
Yeah, lots of reflection. And I will use this moment to just announce, because in your eloquent introduction, this came to my mind, but just this week I actually published paper book on Amazon.
Whoa, yay!
I love
So you
it.
guys are the first to know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I love
on
it.
Amazon, the ebook was there, and during the book launch, I had hardback copies of the book, but I just pushed the go button on the paperback, so
My
it is
goodness.
there.
How does that feel, like knowing this idea is manifesting and just to say the words you're saying right now?
Um, 1,000 different feelings. It feels surreal. It feels just like you would think like an accomplishment.
Yeah.
I think the strongest feeling for me is that through this whole journey, the thing I've been most proud about is I'm leaving this essentially document behind for my kids that
Oh,
after I'm gone, they have my words that is putting light and hope and healing and giving people peace, and it's putting that out into the world. And so the feeling that is most significant for me is being able to leave. My little heart is like getting so sad when I talk about this. Being able to leave my kids something that's hopefully inspirational, that they can turn to if at any point I'm not here to help them through their journey.
Oh, Jennifer, that for me is so delicious.
mhm.
You know, several things that I hear and that I feel in just you sharing, just yourself, your journey, and then bringing in mommydom, you know, and isn't it just amazing, you know, for many of us as moms, the vision of our children, those incredible human beings that we brought into the world, how our heart, and I'll even dare to say our spirit, wants to leave a legacy. And I gotta say this because it's just in my mouth for you. I so appreciate you because so many times people are taught about leaving a legacy for community. And what will other people say? And what are you going to leave for? But what I hear from you is a gentle nudge in saying, what is the legacy? And not even the monetary things, because sometimes that legacy is so connected to wealth and all the things. But you're talking about wisdom, knowledge, light, hope, healing. And through this document,
Yeah.
oh gosh, it makes me think about the ancient sages, right?
Yes,
Through the document, you know, it will serve your children. And that means that your voice will be with them. They will be able to hear you, you
you
know.
are just touching my heart and bringing tears to my eyes
Mhm.
so much. For those of us that feel that way, I feel like we know that that's the most important thing is providing wisdom for uh, those we lead, which is often our kids. And like
Mm,
you said, it's even so much more important than that which is essentially as, Americans, that which is in our will, to be able to provide a better place for our kids and wisdom and hope and love and pass that down is so much more important than the financial, than the material. It does bring me back to a quote, and I'm so sorry. I don't know who the author is of this quote, but it's definitely not me. And I came upon this quote probably when I was in college, and it says something like this. It says, we don't inherit the earth from our parents. We borrow it from our children. And it just speaks to like taking care of that which is in our care that we are passing down to them. Um, so thank you for your
Yeah.
kind
I want to kind
words.
of just share too, because I had been thinking about that too, just so I'm really kind of driven by like, what's your why? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And so I had my daughter, and then I decided, okay, maybe I'll have another child so she'll have a playmate. Well, it was twins, right? And it was right before the pandemic, so they're Valen babies right before the pandemic, and there was twins, and I made it all the way through. I was so excited, but it was just, the last 2 months was contractions and sitting at home, and asking people to come, can you walk up the stairs and put my daughter to bed and give her a bath and read her a story? It was just so vulnerable, right? And so then I fast forward here to where it's like, I knew something was manifesting, right? I had known in my private practice and, spirit universe was like leading me, but I hadn't no clarity yet, right? And so then I was like, when I decided to do the EMDR route, I went to the training, and then I just felt like this is transforming people's lives, and my journey began. And so I had to really sit with that same idea of like, what's my legacy for my kids? And then even doing these podcasts, can they see me? Can they connect with me in some way? Video versus the document, and what's my message? What can they follow? And, right now they're little cherubs, and, it's, I just did want to acknowledge this as well, because we want to lead our children and families, but also too, sometimes children don't turn out in a way where they can receive what we have. And there's a grief process there as well. We hope that our children will be flourishing, competent adults, but then also too, what if maybe that's not the case? And we just want to give those people this message of, it's okay, still be your leader, still do your why. Simon Sinek talks about what's your why. And so, as I just continue this journey and continuing to say yes to whatever's in front of me, it developed and evolved. And also, you can still have that even if your leadership with your children doesn't turn out the way that we hope. And there's just acknowledging that grief process there, right? Because what if, there's a lot of different variables in the way that children develop and who they become. And so I think as parents, that's kind of scary. I mean, I'm scared of that, right? Mine are little right now, but I just kind of appreciate what you had said there. I wanted to talk for you a minute about, I know Tamira's dream is to open a group practice. Can you talk to her or us and our listeners about maybe some tips on having a successful practice, or strategies maybe that have worked for you that can maybe work with other people looking for a group practice in that realm?
Yes, absolutely. So I actually really love talking about this subject because I feel like, yeah, if people go into essentially what I would call agency ownership work with a mentor or with some, like you were saying, wisdom and knowledge about how to approach that, then they can make not as many mistakes as I made on my way through this journey. So I am really passionate about helping others go through the journey so they don't have to experience some of the bumps that I made along the way. Because again, as a provider, my education is in counseling. It was not in business. So I had to learn as I went how to run a business. And as a leader in a business, your mistakes are very public because when you make a mistake, your staff knows it. And so there's a couple elements that I would quickly highlight in regards to this process. And one, the most important one to me in regards to how I lead my staff and how I approach business is, as a leader, we have to be humble because we are going to make mistakes. And as a leader, whoever is looking at owning an agency, if you're not comfortable with people knowing that you're going to make mistakes, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
And so the humbleness has to be there going in to having any kind of employees. My next piece of advice, kind of surface advice without getting into a whole mentoring session, is when you get employees, they are now your boss. It is your job to make sure they have the training, that they have the materials, that they have the supplies to do the job that you've hired them to do. And so that's kind of a whole session. But once you decide to commit to hiring a staff member for your agency, it is your job as their leader to make sure that they have everything that they need to do to be successful at that job. And then if you've tried everything you can and they're not successful, that's a whole different conversation with them that you would have. And then my other two that I tell everybody is, if you're looking to start an agency, especially in mental health, you want to go into it knowing that you have a lawyer, because you need a lawyer to look over your documents, your employee contracts, sometimes your employee manual, things like that. So you want to have a relationship with a lawyer. The other professional you want to have a relationship with, an ongoing relationship with, is an accountant, because there are a lot of tax laws and things that you are going to need expertise in, that if you do your best guess, you will probably miss the mark. And so it's just better to hire out those positions. So that's kind of like quick advice that I would give to people listening.
Amazing. First of all, I mean, there's so many different delicious pathway of conversations we can take in. One part of me wants to rewind, but I'm going to sail the ship and moving forward here with what you're sharing. I loved how you talked about the humility and being a leader. One of the things that I have been so more attunely grateful for at this time in my life as a woman who's building her private practice from what I call scratch
Right.
is building community and working with Kathy, being a part of the Rewired 360 community has really helped me to grow and kind of provided that space, right, to learn. And I had no idea the criticalness of knowing why. And so I've been able to do that. And then hearing from you that whether you're in a solo practice or you're looking to develop that level of humility, I'm finding is so critical because there's a level of vulnerability that comes with all of this, right? There's a level of what I like to call, recognizing how truly, not just in a cliche sense, but how truly perfectly imperfect we are as humans.
Mhm.
And that the title just reflects to our role and what our responsibilities are, but it is not the measurement of how perfect we are, right? And so I wanted to ask, like, and this kind of goes back to your book when you talked about that level of brokenness and how when we can untie the pieces, when we can allow ourselves to experience that brokenness, and maybe that's brokenness because we make a mistake. What would you say is one thing that has helped you to allow a new strength to emerge, you know, um, on your journey in the agency you have, if that kind of makes sense?
I have to say, I just am absolutely falling in love with your podcast because the questions you ask are so heartfelt. And I think it directly impacts the kind of business that we do as counselors, as women, as, owners of private practices, of agencies. I just think the questions you both are asking are so heartfelt and spot on with how we need to look at business, because we have to make logical, hard decisions. And if we don't keep our own foundation in check, it's when it gets imbalanced, right? So, so going back to your question, one of the secrets that I discovered that was really painful and became one of the best strengths that I keep in my pocket is, I think part of the secret of leadership is recognizing, I hope I can articulate this well. I think some leaders think that they have to be perfect, right? We want to do our best. We want to put our best foot forward. We want people to see us as wise and smart and intelligent, as a good leader. And so some leaders think that is all that they can show. And the secret comes in the actual strength. I think of the top leaders, the leaders that we look to at the top, like you mentioned, Simon, the author, the top leaders at the very top that we look to for mentoring seem to have this quality that they recognize it is in our humility that we actually are seen as strong by those that follow us.
Mm-hmm.
And so if someone I'm leading, an employee, for example, feels that I'm not doing things right, the environment we like to cultivate at my agency is, respectfully, of course, privately, have a
Mhm.
conversation with me, because I am open to feedback, because that is what makes us better. And so when those that follow you know that you are approachable and humble enough and introspective and can take their feedback, it allows them to, and the universe, to give you the feedback, knowing that this is an opportunity to grow. And I do want to expand on this for just a second and tell you how I evaluate the feedback that comes my way, because I feel like that's really important to talk about.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Mhm.
you're going to have friends and enemies and all over the place if you're a leader give you feedback. You're going to have so many people give you feedback.
And maybe friends that have turned it in.
Right? And so if someone thinks something about you and it's hurtful and you're not quite sure it's true, just because they think that way does not mean it's true for your heart, and it doesn't mean you should act on it. And here's a way that you can evaluate all the feedback that you get when you're a leader
Mhm.
is whether it's a friend or an enemy giving me feedback. I have decided however the feedback comes to me, I am going to sit with that feedback and I'm going to take it in, because even if it's an enemy, they might be spotting something in me that's in my blind area that I don't know about. And so any feedback that comes my way, I do actually choose to sit with that feedback for a minute and become introspective and self-evaluate. But then the ownership in regards to what I do with that feedback is on me. So when people come with me to feedback, I sit with it genuinely, authentically. I evaluate myself, but then I get to make the decision. Do I feel that that is true of me and something that I don't like about myself? And should I change that? Or is it like a personality difference and they just don't like that part of my personality, but I like that part of my personality? So I choose to keep it. So I think the humbleness is really important as a leader, and then also having some sort of system in regards to how you take that feedback, but also how you keep your confidence. Like that balance is equally important.
Yeah, I want to talk about, I have a couple
Mm.
of stories here. There's this book, if you can see, it's called Making a Difference by Chelsea Sullenberger. And if you know him, he's the pilot that landed the plane. And he's now transformed from a pilot to an educational leader. And this book has 10 or 12 stories. It was in a college class I took on business that talked about how to be a leader. And these stories are really magical. There's actually a lady in Idaho, from McCall, Jennifer, and she transformed healthcare because of something that happened with her son. And so one of the stories in this book talks about, do you guys remember that BPE oil spill in the
Mhm.
ocean, that big oil spill? And one of the leaders of BPE, maybe I might be saying that wrong, but the company that experienced the oil spill, the leader, and had to engage all these people to be able to come forward. Another story is about Hurricane Katrina and how do you engage the workforce to be able to respond to these situations. And so he's a coach, and he goes in and talks about in the story, the guy is a coach and talks to this owner that says, okay, this is a critical point. You know, this is what you need to say as a public representative. These are some talking points. And he goes out and says, you know, we're here for the little people.
Wow.
He's like, no, 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 don't do that. And so what that did to the workforce was divest their relationship with the leadership and create segmentation. And so even if that mistake was owned, that still could have demonstrated the repair. I talk about this in couples that I work with. It's not the mistake, it's the repair. Right? So if he could have said, like, we're here for the little people. I apologize, that came out wrong. That's not what I meant to say. This is actually where I was coming from. I hope you can receive it. Whoa, right? That
Yeah.
magical juice is right in there. And so I think sometimes, and maybe Jennifer, you experience this now in your transformation from this group practice, having success to where you're at now with this whole new business. I want to ask you, leadership changes that, and I want to ask you, how have you experienced, you know, doing the group practice, and how has your view of leadership changed now that you're launching into the authorship and the coaching business and mentoring other therapists, I'm assuming, is your market for coaching. Is that what I'm hearing?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So can you talk about that and your coaching business and that market and how leadership is different?
Yeah, I think leadership is different um, in the sense that the more you become a leader, um, the more you actually are the person that is serving those you lead. And
Mm.
so it is more about the higher you go, so to speak, in regards to those you lead, the lower you are putting you are, the more humble you are making yourself. And so leadership is never, ever, ever about power over people. Like leadership is never about, if anybody's listening to this podcast right now and they're in leadership so that they can, lead to have power, they are fully missing what leadership is about. It is never, ever about that. Leadership, the leaders should be the most humble, the biggest servant. They like, I go to the office and I'm the one taking out the trash. I don't want my counselors to do that. I do that. And then we also at times, of course, hire people to help us out with random tasks like that as well. But those that we lead are not our assistants.
Yeah.
Those that we are the assistant to those we lead. It is our job to make sure that they are successful. And I did kind of want to come back to one thing I often talk about. I just talked about this in a keynote session I was giving. I am so clumsy. So like really, I mean, some people say they're clumsy. I spill my drink, I kid you not, maybe even once a day. So I was leading a group of providers, and I often talk about this story. I was leading a group of providers a couple months ago of agency owners, and I was sitting at the front of the room with the people looking at me, right? Like I was hosting this essentially. And our executive director came and brought me a large cup of coffee because I had driven to that meeting. It was a ways away. And as the meeting began, and I had Magellan, who's taking over the Medicaid contract, to my left because we were talking about that transition. I spilled the entire coffee all over my laptop and all over the table and right next to the Magellan rep and in front of about 40 agency owners. And here's what I want to say, and I talk about this all the time because it's such a good example of what I'm saying put into practice. In those moments, we spill the coffee that is a public mistake, whether intentional or not intentional. Those we lead are looking to us to, out of curiosity, they're wondering, what is she going to do next? And so it's not about the mistake. It's not about like the misword, like you were talking about that coach saying like the little people. It's not about, I mean, sometimes it is about the mistake we make, right? But also it really is about what are we doing after the mistake was made? Are we pretending that the coffee didn't spill? Or are we being like, oh my gosh, I'm clumsy? And most of the people I work with now know this about me because it's quite hard to hide because
I'm
it
laughing
normally is
like kind
drinks
of
that
the
I'm
same way,
spilling.
right? That's why I don't do skiing or any sports like that because I'm like, I just
Mhm.
fall down the hill. Like that's
Right. And it's just so in regards to leadership, we have to think about the spilt coffee. And if I was to lose my cool, those that follow me are going to be like, oh, what kind of leader are we following? Like if I was to get burst out into anger, they're going to be like, oh, what kind of person, like, do I want this person leading me? Or if I can handle the stress and the embarrassment that sometimes comes with leadership, um, and sometimes laugh at ourselves and move on, or humble ourselves and apologize, and that's a whole nother podcast. But those apologies, when we as leaders make a genuine mistake, those apologies are important. And if I can put one more little tidbit in here, I know I'm talking a lot right now, but um, one other thing about the light bulb effect is that if I was to, and I often talk to my kids about this, if I was to think I picked up all the shards of glass from the light bulb on the floor and I thought I got it all, but one of my kiddos was to walk over that part of the floor and cut themselves, even though it wasn't my intention to hurt them, my action still did hurt them. And I need to take action to help them heal from the hurt I caused, even if it wasn't my intention. And I think as a leader, that is such an important concept that if we hurt those we lead, we cannot say, well, I didn't mean to. That does not matter. What
But I think
matters is,
the point though, you can say, I didn't mean to, but it's the demeanor, right? I didn't mean to, I'm so sorry, how to, and so it's the follow-up. If you just stop at, I didn't mean to, and that's different than, I apologize, I didn't mean to, let's figure
yeah,
this out, right? That's a little bit different,
yeah.
so.
So I think, yeah, I think it's just so important to realize, even when our hearts are genuinely, we think in the right place, um, it might not be received well and hurt might happen. And when it does, even if it wasn't our intention to hurt someone, we have got to hold space for that healing to occur. And so just wanted to
Yeah,
put that out there
you
too.
know, Jennifer, and I'm the kind of human being, the kind of woman at this stage in my life right now that, you know, I believe the ego has its place, and I know that folks like to stroke egos and things. I don't do that because I'm like, it doesn't really, in my view, it doesn't serve. And so I really do mean sincerely and genuinely what I'm getting ready to say. Um, you are sheer amazement. And what I mean by that is because, you know, in Kathy and I, we have these organic and beautiful conversations where we blend ethnicity into all of this. And for me and where I come from in my culture and community, you said something that was so power packed, which is about leadership is about serving those you lead. And in my world, in my universe, that is one of the prayers I'm holding for the people in my community because it's usually reverse. We usually see a lot of people of color, especially in spiritual and religious sectors, things of that nature. It's more about the people you're leading, serving you and attending
Oh,
and doing all that. So this conversation in the demonstration, not just your demonstration, but also the presence. For me, it's so important for us as moms, number one, as professionals. I said this to another colleague the other day. I said, I'm not trying to burden us, right? Because I know we got a lot of stuff. I said, however, I was in a Gestalt training some years ago with a Gestalt psychologist from Mexico. He was sheer amazement, just like yourself. There just was a presence. And one thing he shared that I want to offer us, if you all have never heard this, then I'm honored to say this. But he shared, he said, know that therapist, in the term therapist, is more of a modern term. You know, he said in ancient times, we are known as the healers. And he said, and in ancient times, whenever people in the villages would have mental health disturbances and all that, they would send them up to the mountain to the healers. And that the healers, you know, and if you can remember in grad school, one of our golden skills is silence and the embodiment of healing presence, healing spirit, and you have all that. It just is oozing out. And so I say that because you are a demonstration. And even for those who are listening to you, you are role modeling the embodiment of what it really means to become a safe presence and to do this word that we often forget, to be human as we are living and moving and being. And being human, just like you're talking about, just, you know, and I know, I would assume, because I know it's true for me, it's easier said than lived. You know, it's easier
Yeah.
to say, let me, you know, try to own and to move through being perfectly imperfect, but to embody it. And then you're teaching it to us. you are role reversing for a lot of people the true essence of what it means to lead. Because as you were talking, the first thing that came to my mind is, as a leader, you become the shoulders for others to stand on.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
our job as healers is to bring, just as you said early on, more light, more love. And I believe if we take the forefront, not just as healers, but as leaders and teachers in our community, we can begin to change and turn the ship of where our generation is headed. And so I had to say that because you give me hope. Yeah, it's hope. You're giving me hope that we're not just being busy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
creating agent and all the things. And I get it. But you're giving me hope, because my prayer is, God, are there healers who are embodied healers who are here to teach, to share, to lead, to guide from that essence, from that spirit, so we can see change and transformation. And you are right now that beacon of light and hope and a part of that. And I just thank you for that. But such a powerful lesson and nugget of wisdom on what the true substance of leadership, what it looks like, what it feels like, and how to become receptive. Because it's hard to receive, isn't it? And then it's hard to receive. And then can I say this, and I'll digress. Something you also said that I think is also can turn into another podcast is recognizing, just like we have the sun and the moon, we got night and day, you have those who are for you and those who are not for you. You have friend and you have foe, and we've got to be willing to become students of it all. Right?
Yes. And that is such a hard lesson to learn.
You know? But I think that you, with what you've invited us into, I know for me, is not having that tunnel vision, but it's more of a broadened vision of the leader's journey, and recognizing that you're going to have tides of it all.
Yeah.
And so I thank you so much for sharing that. That is absolutely. What do you do for yourself? I gotta ask this, okay? What is the secret sauce? What is your practice that you are doing for you that helps you to embody this?
That is the best question. And I want to take a moment and just thank you for your kind words. It was not an easy journey to get to this place. It was definitely a journey of a lot of tears, learning how to set boundaries, learning how to be humble, right? Those are skills. They didn't come naturally to me. And so for anybody listening, if you're not there yet, that's great, because it is the journey. It's a journey for everything. So thank you for your kind words. I don't know what to say, but I appreciate
I want
them.
to point this out. I have some thoughts over here on this realm. So going through this idea, when you hear people, and to compare and contrast the idea of being a private practice owner and a business owner. So that's what we do here at Rewired 360 is we take therapists, we teach them how to be consultants and trainers and business owners. And so what the first thing is when you have a problem, you go in the market and you look and see where the solutions are, where the problems are, and how do you meet that need? That's the first thing you do. And so in my experience, as you're talking about these experiences, Jennifer, these are the critical points where you might be able to build something beautiful. And that's what happened to me, right? Where in those broken pieces where I felt like, oh man, I was such a poor leader, or this happened to me, I'm able now to say when I'm talking about people, and I would say, oh, you're in private practice, that's so amazing. They're a business owner. When I took that thought into my mind and not just billable hours and patients, you're a business owner. When you look at the CEO, the general stereotypical CEO, you see a powerhouse. You see, I like to use the color code. book. So the red is the power person, the blue is power, but also relationship. White is the motivated by peace, and yellow is motivated by fun. And so when you look at that, you know, historically, it's been more the people that lead are from this red realm, right? And so when we think about ourselves, we're more of a blue people. We like to lead, but we also need these relationships. I think that's our strength as therapists, business owners, is what exactly you're saying. And so how do we bridge this gap so we can hold them both together and teach people that you can transform, but you don't have to be this way that you see people, whether it's presented in the media, relationships, however you perceive that leadership. Even in movies, we see the CEO in those boardrooms. That's just, you know, a negative experience for the people they're leading. And we can transform that. I think that's what therapists are here to do in the private practice realm, is to bring that gap and bring that message to the business industry that it's not all business. We're all relationship people. We can wear your suit, but you can also care. And so this is really important, how we hold these together and how we collaborate within a team. And we really, I think, as therapists and business owners, can bring that to this space that's historically been a little bit not as people skills, right? But just because you're a therapist doesn't mean that you're going to bring those skills. Right? I'm saying that from experience because, you know, I'm a new leader, and there were some experiences I had to have and to get to this journey to where I realized, oh, my market value proposition is I'm going to bring business experience to therapists. So that's kind of where I'm at there. I want to, for a minute, talk, Jennifer, about your coaching business, what you do for people, what's your why, how is that transforming lives, and maybe we could even invite you back for another podcast on just the coaching aspect, because Tamira has a coaching program. She's so funny. She's like, oh, by the way, I have a whole coaching school written. I'm like, what? Right? So it's just so funny, this validation, like, bring it out. So I just want to kind of talk to you about how that manifested for you.
So yeah, okay. So there's a couple different points I want to talk about in regards to everything that you both have asked. You know, it's an interesting journey becoming a counselor, and then it's an even more interesting journey becoming a business owner who leads staff. And for anybody listening, just to give you a background, I employ probably about 30 people right now. And so, so I am, I don't know if comfortable is the right word. If I take a step back and look at what I've created, it's not giant, but to me it feels giant. And I don't take lightly that people's grocery budgets come from decisions I make daily. And so the coaching business, so when I first graduated grad school, and then a couple years after, you know, people naturally start asking you to do projects and to speak and do things like that. And a couple years after, I just thought, I don't have anything to say. I am learning. I don't know anything still. And then as time, so I've been out of grad school since 06. As time goes on, you think, I have a little bit to say.
Yeah,
I know a
right.
little bit about this one topic. And then it goes on and on and on. And you're like, okay, I have a really firm understanding of this thing. And then you just naturally start to get confident. And I think that attracts a certain kind of energy. And so the coaching business naturally came after I felt confident in being able to give advice to people. And then the most scary part of that was you have to put yourself out there. You just have to do it. You have to get on that stage. You have to do uncomfortable things for the end goal that you want to meet. And it takes a level of courage, and it takes a level of braveness and humbleness to get on that literal and sometimes metaphorical stage in front of people to become the leader. And I want to go back really quick, Tamara, to something you asked about in regards to where I put my energy and self-care to make sure that, like, my leadership, my healthy leadership stays strong. And here's what I'll say is I've learned you have to invest your energy into things that fill your cup. And so the things that fill, if you're not doing that as a leader, it's really easy. I could live my whole life only focused on my business
Right.
because I'm passionate about it. I enjoy it. I could think that's my self-care. I love doing it. And that is, I think, a trap that is easily gotten into. And so you have to invest some of your energy into things that are not related at all to that passion. And so for me personally, one of the things that I find, one of the areas I find myself growing in is when I push myself just beyond my comfort zone is where I find that I grow. I feel like that's probably true of most people. And so I tend to engage in activities that make me a little nervous and push myself just beyond the comfort zone. And so two examples that I'm currently engaged in right now is for about 15 years on my bucket list has been I want to become a registered yoga instructor because I want to do retreats and tie that into the book and then tie that into mental health and kind of have this holistic approach to the way I live my life. And so forever, classes were not aligning with my schedule. And I was in bed one night scrolling as we do right before we go to sleep. And this yoga teacher training popped up, and I was like, oh, I'll see. It might not fit in. And it perfectly fit in. And so I jumped into it. So in my free time currently this year, I'm committed to that teacher training program. The other example of kind of going outside my comfort zone is about 3 weeks ago, a girlfriend of mine was invited to go to Cozumel to go scuba diving.
Ah,
And she asked me to come with her and a group of our friends. And I was like, well, I don't have my scuba certification. And her partner was like, call this place. This is what you do. See if you can get it before we leave. And I was like, okay. And so now I'm enrolled in scuba diving classes and I will
wow.
have that certification by the end of April when I leave for Mexico. And so for self-care for everybody looks different, but for me, it looks like engaging in activities that stretch my experience just a little bit, my knowledge, my wisdom. Because I like even in the scuba diving classes, I learn things in those classes that are unrelated to my work that do help me be a better leader.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And same with the yoga training. Like I didn't really do that for my office, but in that training, I'm learning things to help me be a better leader. Um, so self-care and leadership and reinvesting energy in yourself and all of the questions that you both have been asking today all occur on my journey through this metaphorical vision I have of me going down this path and seeing what doors open and then deciding, do I want to walk through that door or not? And then there's been a couple times where the door has been closed, but it's something that I really want to do. And I'm like, but is there a back door? And like, is there a way, like, I feel really strongly about this thing. Could I do it a different way? And so it's all like this metaphorical vision I have in my head is me walking on this path with doors all around me. Um, and as leaders, we open some of those doors that make us really nervous, but they tend to take us on these like amazing journeys. So I think that all kind of ties into self-care and leadership and just what we need to be focused on, because you're right. Like Kathy, it's not about the red. It's not about you don't become a leader so you can become the CEO.
Right.
If you are a good leader, the CEO finds you. Like that
Mhm.
Ooh.
finds you, right?
Mhm.
Because otherwise, and Tamra, it really is reversed thinking to what we've been taught somewhat culturally. If you're looking for the power, the CEO, the red, oh gosh, I hope I don't offend anybody with what I'm about to say. I'm really sorry. Write me letters. We'll discuss it. But if you're looking for the red, the CEO, the power, your focus, in my opinion, might not be on the right place.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I stand to agree. You know, I stand to agree. And I really hope we have you come back.
would love to come back.
Good.
Amazing, amazing, and delicious. And it's just such a beautiful conversation. And we're just hoping that those in our listening audience has some beautiful takeaways. This is definitely one of those conversations you got to press rewind, get your pencil, get your notepad,
Yeah,
and
for
just
sure.
get
Get
the
the nuggets,
gold,
get all the nuggets
get the
out.
gold nuggets in and the gold dust because it's sprinkled everywhere. Okay. And so again, we are just thanking you, Jennifer, because again, Journey Through the Eyes is here to inform, inspire, ignite passion, and you've really, really set a flame and poured so much for us. I know for me and those who are listening, I think we can all say yes to that. And so, Kathy, you let them know to remember to subscribe and go ahead on and take us out.
Yes, so Journey Through the Eyes, right now we're bi-weekly. They go public Fridays at 6 a.m. You can find them on Spotify and on Apple. We want to just extend so much gratitude and appreciation to Jennifer. We wish you best success with your book. We're so happy that this wasn't planned, that your launch with the paperback was this week. So we are thrilled. I'm thrilled. I can't wait to see it. And you can find us at rewired360.com as well. If you want to go on the web and download this episode, you can do that as well. And I think this podcast is going to be magical. And I'm so excited and thrilled to have people like you come here to share space so it can emanate out through the world in the digital market. So we're thrilled. We honor you. We see you. And to our listeners, thank you all so much. If you have a topic you want to hear more about, write us. We're at the journeypodcast360.com and at gmail.com. And you can message us. So we're so thrilled. And we will hope to see you all soon. We love the comments. So thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.